Hello and welcome again to another fun and exciting episode of the Fun and Victorious podcast. I am your host, AndyTheGameMaker. And on today's episode, I interviewed my good friend, Devin Adams. Devin is a West Point graduate, a former Army officer, and a business entrepreneur. I've known Devin for quite a few years now. He's got some amazing stories about growth and development, especially when he was at the military academy. And I'm really excited that he gets to share that with you today. There's a lot you can learn from that. And he has a lot of really great insight on running a business, or businesses, I should say. That's probably a better way to put it. He's got quite the mind for business as an entrepreneur, and he's got some really great stories and lessons to share with you. So I'm really excited to share this episode with you today. But before we do that, you know the drill.
Crypto Cartel is a 2 to 8 player game where players must work to build up their own resources in order to accumulate as much cryptocurrency while playing through the main deck 3 times. Players earn the ability to earn cryptocurrency as they collect cards of similar types and then exchanging them during the game. Simultaneously, the cryptocurrency gives each player the ability to earn cards from the Silk Road deck. These cards give players the ability to attack their opponents, defend any impending attacks, or fend off the DEA. The DEA cards appear in the main deck during the second and third rounds of the game, forcing a player to give up their most valuable production line. You must develop production lines of multiple cards in succession as quickly as possible, and in order to do this, you must make effective trades with other players. But be careful, get too far ahead and everyone will go after you.
To secure your copy of Crypto Cartel, please go to my website at AndyTheGameMaker.com. Each copy that is purchased helps with the programming of this show. And if you want, you can even donate. There's going to be a link at the bottom of this video. So if you want to support me that way, you can do that too. And if you like the content as well, if you like the episodes, like the conversations, please feel free to subscribe if you haven't done so already and hit the notification bell. That way you get updated on all the videos that are coming out soon. So without any further ado, though, let's start the show. Devin, thank you so much for joining me here today on the Fun and Victorious podcast. It's been great knowing you for as long as we have, and I'm just really excited to have you on because I think you have a really interesting personal story. I love that all the entrepreneurial endeavors that you've been really invested in, watching you from afar. So, would you mind just taking a moment just to kind of introduce yourself, just say who you are, and maybe you start with like the West Point story. I think a lot of people would take value in that aspect and that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's up, man? I'm Devin T. Adams from Birmingham, Alabama, originally. I guess it all starts back in Birmingham, like I homeschooled for most of my life, and I went to high school after I found out about the West Point and the service academies when I was in like 8th grade, and I was like, oh, this sounds like a great opportunity. Like I'd love to do this, and I think that's like really where my journey starts, because I think for me, that's like the first time I can remember like really wanting something. And I just was like, yeah, like that's just like what I want to do. And everybody's like, oh, it's super hard and all this other stuff. And my thing was like, I looked at the catalog and I just felt like, oh, like, but they told me like, if you have this stuff, like this is what they're looking for. So like, I'm an 8th grader and I haven't got to high school yet. So like, if I go to high school and I do the stuff,
yeah,
I should get the thing, right? Like, I mean, like it's such a basic thing, but I would say like a lot of my life is that way. Of just like, I mean, it's sometimes just that simple. Like I gave a talk this morning and just like, yeah, one of the big things for me is just everything takes what it takes, right? So anyways, went to West Point, was good, did everything there. My first 3 years, my junior year, I decided, I was like, man, like, I don't know, I was checked out. I really had this whole thing where when I was a sophomore, it's important to know, like, this is like 2009, like at this particular school year, every day at lunch, like, it's like, yo, such and such class 2008, killing in action. this person like killing action. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And I'm like 21 and I'm about it, but like I don't feel like I am like I really kind of want to I still want to like go to University of Florida and like party and like be 21 or whatever like my conception of that is at the time. And so I was like, man, well, I know that like there's people who leave the academy for like religious reasons or other reasons and are allowed to go and then like come back if they like go do like humanitarian work or whatever. So I got in my head in my sophomore year, like I'm like, yo, I'm gonna like leave and transfer to like Florida for like 2 years and then like apply to come back because it's like, wow. Everybody I told this to was like, bro, like shut up, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm a yuck. Everybody's like, be quiet, bro. And I was just like, and looking back, I mean, you know, I think mental health is just, I think it's like a weird way to call it, but like we're all just dealing with like what we're thinking about and like the way that we're perceiving our lives, like, you know, and whatever our like our traps are or whatever the things that we're telling ourselves, the reason you can't do whatever it is. So anyways, I got this in my head. Everybody told me that was crazy. So I begrudgingly came back for my junior year, but like I was super not about it. I was like super like, oh, like I can't believe I did this. Like I would rather be somewhere else. And honestly, the root, like looking back with like a lot of reflection, like the root of it all was just I just wanted to be there at the time, and I wanted to be a West Point grad. That's like a really weird like dichotomy. I don't know if you ever felt that way. It was like I don't really want to like do this, but like I actually super want like the blessings that come from the experience.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So my junior year, I was like, well, I think I can like basically not do anything here and still be able to like do everything because like I just understand how this works. And I'm like a big systems guy. That's like how I do everything. We'll get into that when we talk about business, but it's like, that's how my brain works. So once I understand the system, then like I understand like how to exploit or do whatever. So my junior year, I was just like, yo, let's just like the game this year is just going to be like, let's just see how max we can take this.
Right.
How like ridiculous can I like be in the system without like running afoul of the system? Because like I still wanted to go to University of Florida. I'm 21. I still want to like party or have a life or whatever I'm thinking about.
Right.
And I'm just like running around, running them up. My grades dropped terrible. Like I'm getting in all types of trouble. So in the end, I end up like having like an honor board from a class that I like dropped. It ends up being like a whole drama. But at the end of the day, the real takeaway from the whole situation was that because I had been running amok all year,
right,
no one wanted to hear me about how I didn't do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's one of those things where I was like, I mean, I did this. I cited these people. Like, obviously, everybody knows you're citing. This doesn't really make any sense. I don't really understand. But they're like, you have been like, we haven't caught you, but like, we know that you've been running around doing ridiculous shit.
Right.
And like, so in the end, like I ended up getting in trouble for like a pattern of misconduct is the actual thing that got me like on the hook. They were like, nah, dude, like this and this, all these little incidents and stuff. So I ended up having to leave the academy after my junior year, go home to Alabama. I'm like, but like, you guys don't know me. I'm like a really like tenacious person is what I would like.
Right.
Is what I would say. Right.
Right.
So like this for me was like, okay, like this calculation of like what I was just trying to do just blew up in smoke. But like, I'm not a bad guy. You know what I mean? Like I never did anything or like even when I got in trouble for it was like, oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm like, all right, bro. All I know is I set out on this thing to become a West Point graduate. And I have this opportunity to go do this thing. And I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure that like what I said that I was going to do is what we're going to do.
Right.
So like, that's it. So I was like, all right, well, get up off the whole like, sorrow about it. And like, look, it's like the grieving process. Like, you know what I mean? Of course I'm in denial. I'm 21, man. I'm like, woe is me, the system, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But after a while, I was like, bro, you're being ridiculous. Like, you know, you knew the rules of the game. You're not playing the rules. Like, shut up, you know?
Right.
But the uphill slog of this is that I'm looking at 730 days at least. The way this program is looking is that like basically they're taking, you go home for a bit, then you go to the Army, you go to
the Army mentorship
like,
program, right?
Right, the Army mentorship program. You go
Yep.
through like the like basic training,
Yes.
and your AIT or your tech school, whatever you want to call it, and then you go out to your unit. And the deal is that you have a battalion commander that like sponsors you, that like you're going to their unit. So you like go to tech school and then you go to their unit.
Yes.
And like you do whatever they're doing. But usually you're going to someone's deployment. So I found I was pretty well connected at the time when I was at West Point. I had a good reputation, despite all the ridiculousness of my junior year. So that was all right. A lesson also in there to like, hey, make good relationships. You never know when shit goes south, you know? But
absolutely.
Yeah, so a lot of people have my back, so it was lit. So anyways, go through the whole journey of like, I won't even begin to go through the whole journey of like how ridiculous of a web to weave this experience was as a young enlisted cat in the infantry with like knowledge and like connections, but it's a very deep web of like politics and all this other stuff. But then we went to Afghanistan. We were in Afghanistan in early 2012, rough deployment, 4th Brigade, 82nd. We lost a lot of dudes, like a couple of dudes in my platoon. And, you know, the Army mentorship program was such an interesting thing because it's like, okay, so I got in trouble at school and now I have to go to Afghanistan.
Right.
If you want to look at it that way. I think now that I'm older, I don't look at it that way. I think when I was in it, I certainly look at it that way of like, I can't believe I got in trouble and like now I'm in Afghanistan trying like, and like 2 of my platoon mates just died. Like, that's crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
But it made the entire experience for me though a whole different situation though.
Mm-hmm.
When I got back to West Point, like I'm telling you, I came out of Afghanistan and 9 days later I was a cadre for Buckner.
Right.
And like 9 days before that, like it was super going down. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa. So when I got to Buckner, I'm like, yo, listen, I'm not playing with you.
Right. And for those, let's just interject just real quick. So for those unfamiliar, Camp Buckner is typically for people who are going in their second year West Point, and that's where that's effectively what you were. That was the assignment, right? Training cadets who were going.
Yeah. So when I came back to West Point, so I was gone for 2 years.
Yes.
I was like a gutter salesman, blah 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 blah. Down and out. We can talk about that, but I'll talk about that stuff when I get to the entrepreneur stuff because it's better connected. We'll do the military stuff and then
right.
But yeah, so I get back. So it's 2 years. I was out. I went to Fort Benning, went to airborne school.
Right.
Then I went to the 82nd Airborne in Fort Bragg, 4th Brigade, 82nd, 1508. And went there, and my platoon leader that I had was the best dude, like the best role model, I think, like ever. And like, I really like something I'll probably say a lot today is like, you know, I often try to walk in a way where, you know, God's hand is on my shoulder. And there's a lot of these people along the way that it is clear to me that like this person, like I was put here to be in this situation to look at this, right? Mm-hmm. I'm in the, you know, I found my way to one of the best units because for me, even in the situation where I'm not where I want to be, I'm still trying to be the best that I can be. And my attitude going into the enlisted situation was, this is live Army. Like, this is not, I'm not an officer right now, but this all still counts. Yes. Right? Like if I get my EIB as an enlisted person, like it's mine.
Right.
If I get a CIB, it's mine. Like, right. Exactly. If I look at my Ranger tab right now, it's mine. Like, you know, like, what do you mean? Like, it's my service. Right. So I'm still out here. So I think that attitude about it really was helpful in like helping me get through the whole situation and sobering me up as a young kid about what was going on.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm at West Point, like, who cares? Like, whatever, we're drinking, blah, blah. Whoa. Then I got to Afghanistan, it was like, whoa, this is a different, well, really not even Afghanistan. I got to brag, and it was like, whoa, this is a different beast.
Yeah.
This is a different beast. Yeah. I thought I knew, but, like, I get it now. But, you know, like, everything, it takes a little bit of time, blah, blah, blah. So when I got back to Buckner, you know, I came back to West Point on a mission. I understood that I had this like thing I have to talk about or whatever. But again, like, I don't feel like I did anything that was like morally wrong. So for me, I'm like, okay, but I had to do all this other stuff. But it was all of that that took me to a place where I understood, like, okay, this is what leadership looks like. This is what it looks like to lead from the front.
Right.
This is what effective strategic planning looks like. This
Yes.
is what seriousness looks like. This is what being a professional looks like.
Right.
And I know a lot of people give Bragg a hard time or whatever, but I don't care. My thing is like, hey, I stayed in the airborne community. And if I went back, I'd be over there with them, because that's the type of standards that I'm trying to set for myself. And I feel like often that's the type of leadership that I saw, even if they could take the standards a bit far sometimes.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, listen, like, if you're over here, we assume that you came over here because that's what you came here for.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to try to be excellent every single day. I feel like, yeah, I loved it. So, sorry, I haven't thought about this stuff in like a long time, but
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't really visit this too much, but
Right.
yeah. So when I came back, man, Buckner, dude, I came back and I was like, I can't imagine what these kids must have thought when I came, because I was like, I'm not playing, bro. I'm not playing. And it was important to me I needed to come back to West Point and put numbers on the board. Like,
Yes.
through this whole talk, I'm going to show each time, like, it's a very simple thing. I had a very simple sentence that I was trying to accomplish, a defined goal, and an unrelenting focus to bring that goal about. Right? That's like the whole story I'm telling right now. The first time was, hey, I'm in 8th grade. I'm going to go to West Point.
Right.
There's a list of shit to do it, and I am going to do it. That's it. I promise.
Right.
You know?
I think it's super interesting to hear that you prepared for West Point in 8th grade, because what's really, and I think that's really interesting, just because working with, you know, West Point inside of Orange County, for me in my case, speaking with young kids who are interested in high school, some of them don't even realize, oh, what West Point might be a really good option until it's almost too late. But the fact that you had like a nice little plan set up starting from 8th grade, I think that's super interesting.
My mom, bro.
Yeah.
It's my mom, because, you know, I homeschooled when I was younger. And so I really felt that she helped with the curriculum and really was able to cultivate my mind in a way that I also didn't grow up in school with everybody else's mind.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I think this allowed me to be thinking about myself at a more intimate level earlier. Right. Like, I'm in 8th grade. Like, well, what am I going to do in my life? Like, cause like I'm in 8th grade, but I'm like grown, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, all right, well, like, if I'm in control of my life, right? Like, so I think it's a story more about agency. I think that we should encourage each other as we have, like, as people. I don't have kids, but my passion is to teach children. We'll get into that. But, you know, look, the thing about it is, you have to help them get to their agency quicker and stop prescribing these things to these children, right? I know this is like a little bit off subject, but this is on subject. And stop prescribing these things to these children. Your job is to help them to be able to look at the things that are happening and decide for themselves. This is the task. If you're like, oh, if they say the sky is blue and you're like, answer, then you are doing them a disservice. Like, look, listen, the real answer is, from what we understand, right, so far, because they have understood a bunch of stuff about this. Right. So, like, don't be going over here acting like this is a definitive thing. We think so far that the prisms and the thing, like, we'll look at it. We'll look at the prisms, we'll look at the car, blah, 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 right? Don't hit these kids with the God made the sky blue. Like, come on, yo. Like, you could do that, but, like, can we, in conjunction, offer some other theories for the child to ponder and think about? Right. Anyways, so I think at 8th grade, for me, it was like, yo, okay, I just knew I wanted to get out of Alabama. I'm not a fan. I wasn't having a great experience. I'm a young, very smart Black kid in Alabama. That wasn't really going that well for me. I was like crushing everybody at the school stuff, but that was like, makes me a pariah though. Right? Because like, I am busting then all of the things that they told you your whole life about how this is not possible. But like, I'm here though, doing it. So like, but that drove me in high school, right? When I got to high school, people were like, who does this guy think he is? And again, I mean, I told you, you know, Ye is like, I'm a biggest fan. And like, dude, because at every moment of my life has like coincided with the Kanye album. I swear. Like I got to high school and college dropout, like, no, it was late registration really, but like the whole canon, like just, man, like the whole, every day all I ever heard about was like, oh man, like Devin, like you're not really black.
No, geez.
Not really black. Like I can't explain to y'all in Alabama, man, like it's like deafening. Like, and I did not grow up with this though. You know what I'm saying? Like I grew up is reading the books and then hanging out with my friends. My best friend is Mexican, so like we just chilling and like we just kicking it. Like, you know what I mean? It's no problem. So, you know, I get to school and all this riffraff about this shit. I'm like, yo. So immediately I'm like, yo, I'm not with this. Like, and this is the fuel exactly that I need to like show that like all of this is not real. Right. I am going to like 100% do exactly what I came to this school. Yes. Bro, I came to the school on the first day and gave the lady the list of like, yo, check this out. Yeah. I'm going to do all this stuff. Can you help me and support me in like doing these things? I need to take like all the AP classes and all the what you call it. So I got to get like a 33 on the ACT and I got to like be able to run for class president. I need to like run sports. And she helped me with the plan. She's amazing. There's amazing angels along the way that help me every single way to like do what I need to do, but a laser type focus on what we're trying to do. So let me like fast. So we can like, I'm sorry.
You know, I just want to add one thing that you said about agency, which I think is really valuable, because it's kind of like, because, you know, I'm a dad, you know, I have 2 kids, and I kind of like give my wife a hard time for this, where it's, so for example, if my kid gets hurt or if they fall down, rather than going up and saying, oh, are you hurt? I'll just be like, hey, how are you feeling? Are you okay? You know, are you okay or whatever? And versus like, you know, I don't want to project the ideas in their head. Like, oh, are you scared? For example, I really hate that question, because then all of a sudden they'll think, should I be scared? Is this how I should be thinking? It's like, no, like what are you experiencing right now? And just having them speak up to that. And that's, I think that's a really, and I think that's a really valid point. I try not to, again, because I just think that so many people just don't use their brain nowadays, or not enough people is probably a better way to put it.
Well, I mean, this is again off track from my life story or whatever, but since we're just talking about it, I mean, I have lots of pontifications about all this. I've been working on a book. Like, this is my thing about it. Okay, so the kids, when they're young, they are like, they have nothing. Okay, so like let me back up again.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Here's my whole thing, and this will make sense when we get into the other shit. All right, it is my opinion, or like my musing, it will be my philosophical offering, that life is simply that you have to eat, you have to sleep, and you have to deposit your waste. Mm-hmm. These are the only things that are absolutely necessary for you to like maintain your life form at the most basic level, right? Mm-hmm. I can put you in a cell and I can give you those things, and I can keep you alive for a long time.
Yeah, right.
Like a long time, like a long time. Like, you know what I mean? I don't have to talk to you. I don't have to do all of that is not necessary in real life. It's not, right? So that means then that every single thing that's not that is just something to do in this life. Mm-hmm. It is just something that we are doing to like entertain our perception on a regular basis, right? That's it, bro. The jobs, the kids, the wife, like all that stuff, bro. Everything is something for you to do with your perception. Right. It's important to understand this then, because if you are doing things or you have things in your life that are dragging you down, that are making you unhappy, you don't have to do it. Right. You actually, like you do, and nothing, no social mechanism of like hooks and ladders of like all the levy system of, but if I do this, it'll do that. None of it matters. It's not real. You can absolutely go do whatever you want to do. So it's important to understand then that you are actively opting in to all the stuff that you're doing. Right. Take a hold of it. People, we're going to get into the business stuff and all the stuff I do. People tell me on a regular basis, like, bro, how do you have the time to do this? And I'm like, but bro, I have the same amount of time, weirdo. Like, that's the dumbest question ever. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that means you're absolutely lost.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Exactly.
you're not even thinking about and I understand that people mean it colloquially, so I don't want people to like razz me in the comments. I understand that, but no, at the base level, they really mean it though.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They really
Exactly.
mean it.
Yeah, people get too distracted is what it is. They let themselves get distracted by stuff that doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily fulfilling is what it is. It's probably the best way to put it.
That's what I would say too. And I was gonna say about distracted. I'm like, well, I mean, ultimately what I just tell people is like, hey, we have the same amount of time, but this is what I'm choosing to fill my time with.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just that simple. Like I really feel like a lot of times like people like pedestal me or something when I'm talking, and I'm like, don't do that. It's not like that. It's like I really just work all day. Like it's not that deep. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm obsessive. If you were next to me, you would see that like, yes, like I'm good at this, but like I'm on like, okay, one of the chapters in my book is about reframing difficulty. Okay. Mm-hmm. What I'm talking about is like, yo, there's nothing that's easy or hard. Everything that just takes what it takes. And so if it takes 100,000 hours of basketball practice to be like a D1 college basketball player, listen, I bet you if you go and do the drills and do the things, you will be the thing. I'm telling you, I don't care how tall you are, no matter. I'm telling you,
right.
You do like the workouts and you do the situation, you do these requisite things, you will at least be that talent level.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Or that skill level. Let me say skill level.
I think a really good example of that is I think about the first thing I think about is like the NFL. And I use that as an example because oftentimes you have these people who are Heisman Trophy candidates who get drafted, but then their career is a complete bust because oftentimes like college football, it just, you can get away with just being, naturally gifted in a lot of ways, right? Not necessarily because of being disciplined or anything like that. But that's what I love about the NFL, because you'll oftentimes get these guys who they did really well in college, but because they busted, so much harder along the ways to get drafted, and even in the NFL, they went even further. I guess you could use Tom Brady as a really good example, actually, because I mean, look at him. It's like he's got like a 5.2 40 time, like he's like super slow. He's 40 some odd years old, still playing, 23 years in the NFL now at this point. It's just sort of like that's almost exactly, as a matter of fact, I would say that is exactly what you're talking about, because he cuts a lot of BS out of his day-to-day, from my understanding.
I mean, look, we have a limited amount of capacity.
Yeah.
I don't even want to. Oh, wait. Yeah, building blocks. Sorry, just let me finish this point.
Sure, go ahead.
Like, so even in a business situation, we can talk about it later.
Yeah.
The how is always the same answer.
Yes.
Everything takes what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
I sat down and I took inventory, like actual, of what exactly does all of this take.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started marching down the list. And you know what? When I first had it, I had like 10 things on the list. And then I had like a million question marks that I had no idea yet. But you know what? The only thing that you ever have to know is that you're going to do it.
Right. Yeah.
That's it, bro.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. It's like, I heard the story. Are you familiar with the band Death Cab for Cutie?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So they, what's really interesting is this is their story, and this plays perfectly with what you're saying, because they said, like, someone asked them, hey, so how'd you guys become so famous? And they said, well, we, like any other band, we played in high school, right? We got together in high school, we played a lot, and we had all these other friends who had bands as well. But then some of them went to college, some of them did whatever, and slowly but surely the other bands just sort of fell off along the ways. They just didn't stop playing, is what it was. They just kept going. They just, again, like what you're saying, they had focus, they had drive, and they just kept going. And sure enough, one of the most popular bands nowadays. I haven't heard them more recently, but I think that's a really good example of like what you're talking about.
Right. After the chapter about reframing difficulty and the building blocks, we go into talking about, because like I want people to stop saying shit's hard. Like, listen, what you're saying when you say something is hard is you're saying that it's impossible. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you this because you think that you're saying that it's really difficult, but you're skipping over the fact that we use really difficult though in the lexicon. Like it's not like we don't say really difficult. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like we do say, oh, that was really difficult. So like since we say that was really difficult, I don't believe that hard is a direct substitute for really difficult, or we would never say it. Right? Hard is what you say when you want to say that you think something is impossible, but you don't want to say it's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh man, that's really hard.
Yeah.
Like, well, Devin, yes, I mean I can, but that's hard. What you mean it's hard? It's not hard. It just is whatever it is. Like, what do you mean? Like, look, it's just if you want to be a pro basketball player or you want to hoop and like shut it down in the gym, I'm telling you, you need to go in the gym, do your 3 hours in the morning, do your cardio in the middle, like go back and do shoot around. I bet you if you start doing that 6 hours a day, I told these people earlier, like, okay, I'm a big believer in the 10,000 hour rule, but my like philosophy about the building blocks just breaks it down to make you focus on the importance of each one of those hours on the way though.
Right.
You're learning something.
Exactly.
You're doing something. You are reinforcing what you've been doing. You should rejoice in the ability to stack these building blocks. You should be excited that you have the momentum to start stacking. Keep stacking. That's amazing. Keep going. The business I'm on right now, I'm just like, yeah, this is like my college dropout. Mala Mia is like my college dropout, bro. I hope that this is the beginning of many, many things that are amazing that I can like bring to the world and like give people that they want to like love and that we thought about and crafted and thought about what we're trying to offer the world and what we want people to experience in exchange for their money, right? Value for money, but you got to bring the value. And so it's very important, you know, but for me, like, I'll go back to the story, but for me, the two things that I want people to take away from this and listen to this through this whole life story I'm about to tell, because it's a whole tumultuous situation, but the things that you need to pay attention to are this. Each time I defined the exact objective that I was going after, and I went after that with an unrelenting focus. It does not matter what happened on the way. It will not be done until we have the thing that was the objective.
Right.
It's a game of a have and have not. Stop worrying about the journey. You don't have your thing yet. That's what you should be thinking about. If your thing is like, hey, I'm going to build this business and I want $10 million. Okay, tape it on the wall then. Right. Go do it then. Like, it's not even like, it's not a difficult task. It just is what it is. Right. Like, hey, let's make a plan for the $10 million. You could sell anything. Right. You just got to make a plan of actually how are we going to make this $10 million materialize and have an unrelenting focus to have it materialize. And I promise you, it will be there if you just keep at it until it's there. Right. So the chapter after that is about building the bridge. That's like my principal thing is like, that's what I'm describing. Hey, I'm going to put a line in the sand in the future. I'm going to define my exact objective. Right. And then I'm going to backwards plan from there. And every day I have an opportunity to put a plank down from where I am to where I'm going. Right. And all I have to do is today's work. I never have to worry about tomorrow. Right. Because tomorrow is today's work and today's work is today's work. So today's work, and then we put the plank down and we can eat a morsel of that happiness every single day when the plank goes down. Right. You don't even have to celebrate when you get there. You've been celebrating the whole time by doing it. Right. The action, the act of the life is the celebration. You have the ability to take yourself closer to doing what you said that you were going to do. And that should give you great, great, great joy every day. Great joy. Right. That you're just doing what you said you're going to do. Right. It's like a life improvement, man. A whole life improvement. Just put the plank down. You can pat yourself on the back every day. Right. You did it. Right. Nice. That also reminds me of something I learned this past year. It was really, really smart quote. It was really brilliant. I heard this from Chris Williamson. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's got a really great podcast. But something he said that is sometimes perfectionism is actually described as, or is not described. It's excuse me.
perfectionism is disguised oftentimes as procrastination, really, or procrastination is disguised as perfectionism, where people, and that oftentimes prevents people from actually moving forward. I'm not sure like what your thoughts are on that as well.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, these bottles, I think, and I'll share them, but like we're on like probably like our 38th iteration, and we had like 18 different labels get kicked back by the different governments, right? Like we had an original design. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get the opaque bottles like we have. I don't know if I have any of the originals in here actually. Do I? No. But anyways, I changed the agave illustrations, like we got new agave illustrations. We had to add an accent to the eye. Like we had to change all this stuff around. We had to change like the words on the bottom. Like so many different revisions. But at the end of the day, I have a singular objective in mind.
Yes.
I knew exactly what I was going after with the bottles. And I had an unrelenting focus to like get that correctly. So we're off timeline. I was supposed to have a whole Cinco de Mayo part. Like, I don't care about that. I care about like, hey, I have an exact hole in the product market fit. I designed a product that is going to fit. It's like exactly into the hole that we are trying to fill. And that's why it's going to be successful, because I took the time to understand what were the holes in the market and how to place them there. Right. So my thing about the perfectionism then is I do agree that often procrastination can be disguised as perfectionism. But what I would say is that what people are calling perfectionism, like, I think it's not about perfection. I think it's about, I'm an outcome-based individual. What is the objective? Stop all this subjectivity about, again, just like the easy hard. Stop that. Ground yourself.
Right.
What is happening here, actually? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I am trying to get this thing. These other things are not that thing. So how could I accept that if they're not the thing? That's how you have to think about it. Like, no, I'm trying to just get this one thing to be true. And I don't want no other world besides that one. That's one of my mantras personally, is like, when I'm on something where I'm like, we're going to make this so, I say to myself all the time, there is no world in which it isn't true.
Right.
So when people are thinking about all the anxiety, about all the stuff that goes wrong, all the 99 worlds that can be like terrible, I dissipate all of that and only focus on the one world where it's going down.
Right.
Because that's where we want to be at. I don't care about any of that. I don't care about it. It's going to have to crash into this party in order to be recognized.
Right.
But until it crashes in, we're laser focused on, of course we're going to be on the mark. Of course it's going to be amazing, because we're going to make it so. And every single day when someone says they don't want it, I'm going to be like, why don't you want it? Let's talk about it. I'll give the shit to you for free. What you mean? Put it on the shelf. Just put it on the shelf and call me when somebody starts asking, what's that thing on the shelf? Can I have some? Give them a cup. You know what I mean? And then
absolutely,
we'll talk about it, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And I think so when I came back to West Point, laser focus on, I now have to put some patching on my career, is the way I'm feeling at the time, right? I just came out of this whole thing. I just came out of the war though. So I got my patch, I got my stuff. Like I really was out there. So, okay. So I got my street cred,
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately,
they love the street cred up at West Point. That's for sure.
I mean, they love the street cred everywhere. They love the street cred everywhere because we were.
But that's the
thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's the one thing I'll say about the different times of wars and old grads and when they graduate. Hey, all I know is me and all my homies, for sure, were there doing a lot of work that has to do with military things.
Exactly.
that's just what I know. You know what I mean? I got too many friends that like we were out there. So look, I mean, that's an experience. That's its own experience. For me, that was its own experience about like that's when for me, that's when I feel like God showed up with his hand on my shoulder. I'll take you this story real quick because I referenced it. So I feel like the actual story is really important. So I was in Afghanistan. I got readmitted to West Point. This is the best story, actually. Okay. So look, the whole thing about Army mentorship is that everybody that you come in contact with has to sign off on you, and like that they would follow you. All these questions: would you follow this person in combat? Would you, do you trust them? Are they honorable? All this stuff. Now, that puts me in a really, really powerless position. I'm a private first class in the Army. I'm a West Point like kick out, drop out kid. Well, let's be serious. Like, I'm Black and in the infantry. Like, I won't do that too much, but it is important to note, because anybody who's been in this environment has to understand that, like, that is not a great position to be in.
Right.
That's just not a great position to be in. Like, right? Because now everybody's got their, like, my life in their hands. They're like, oh, so you got your life in our hands? Like, this is lit. It's like, I was like a little, like, play toy. Like, oh, this is amazing. We get to, like, abuse an officer for, like, a year.
Right.
Like, he can't do shit about it. And, like, he has to, like, stay silent because he needs us to, like, sign off. So we can definitely do the whole, like, take it.
That almost sounds worse. That almost sounds like worse than Ranger School, like when in terms of like not getting peered. I mean, this feels I
have a better Ranger School story than this story. This is a good story. I'm sorry, but like,
no, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So this whole situation, because this was like some real, like, my life is in your hands. Ranger School was different. My dreams were in people, like, like,
exactly. You're at the mercy of
people.
This was
really like, oh shit, like, I really have to, like, survive. Like, I really have to have these people, like, not try to get me killed, right? Like, that's like a real thing, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was really, anyways, it was rough, but nonetheless, weathered the storm. It was good. Got back into West Point, and I was okay. This is the type of stuff they were doing. So I was only in Afghanistan for like 3 months, right? Because I had to go back to West Point in like May. So we got to Afghanistan like late January. We get to Afghanistan, it's haywire. It's early 2012. It's when that dude from Fort Lewis went and killed all those civilians. The whole place was on fire. It was terrible. It was like, oh man, I was like, this is the worst. And think about this. I'm like 4 months from going back to West Point. I've been out of the academy for like 20 months, man, like doing my dues, like doing the whole thing. I understand. I've been all enlightened. I'm like, okay, like, you know what I'm saying? All I got to do is just like make it out of Afghanistan. Then I get there and it's like the world's on fire. I'm like, oh my gosh, like,
yeah,
this is like the ultimate crucible of all time. Like, what is going on? I was like, I swear to you, like right now, I was like, I will never do anything wrong on purpose, like ever. That was like one of my things. Like, I was like, I swear. So I guess for the rehabilitation or whatever, again, I wasn't being a bad guy, but I was just like being a kid. But I got real serious. I was like, okay, this is a serious thing. But anyways, we went on this mission, and it was really, really rough. Lost a couple of dudes. And I came back and I prayed, So got into West Point. Well, I was only there for 3 months, so they would do shit like this. They'd be like, okay, well, Adams is only going to be here a third of the deployment, so you can do like 3 times the work while you're here.
Oh, jeez.
We'd have like 4-hour guard shifts, right? 4-hour guard shifts, and I'd be like, you got a 12-hour shift. I'm in 3 slots. Like, yo, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, y'all gonna do like that? That's whack. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, no.
But, okay. All types of stuff like that, bro. Just all types of goofy stuff. So it was just like being hazed the whole time. But whatever, man. Like, again, unrelenting focus, bro. I don't care about none of that. I'm going back. All my boys already graduated. You know what I mean? No. No. And so anyways, I prayed. I was like, oh, so no. I'm in the turret one day. It's the day I'm supposed to find out about the West Point stuff. And we got, Wi-Fi on the base. So I'm in the turret, like at the gate center, and I like get on my phone, pull it up, get the email, like, congratulations, blah, blah, blah. No! But like, you gotta look at this, like, you gotta zoom out. This is like some Star Wars shit. I'm in like Afghanistan. It's just me in the turret, like, no one in the world cares. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's
everyone's doing the thing, and all of a sudden, there you go, boom, yeah.
Like, only me. I'm like, yes, like, yes. And I had to sit in that turret for 12 more hours. And honestly, it was an exhilarating 12 hours. It was amazing. It was like one of the best days. I was just like, whew. But then what happened was I had to leave though. So like that's just like one part of it. It was like, okay, yeah, cool. So then I'm like emailing everybody, like, okay, like I got back in, like, okay, can I like stop going on patrol? Because the problem where we're at is like pressure plate IEDs, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, bro, we go on patrol every day, and like we really are losing people and losing legs and shit. And I'm really just trying not to lose mine. Like I will go, of course, but like I'm just at the end of this thing, I'm just trying to get back. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And it's so difficult, like, even as I'm thinking about it, it's like so difficult to try to express like how complicated of a situation that is. Of like, my friends are here, we lost friends, like, but I gotta go back. But I'm not even going back to not be in the same thing. I'm just going over here. So it's not like there's not people who live in the middle of deployment. That's like a normal thing. Like people do it.
Yeah.
But still, it's like, anyways, man, I prayed, man. I was like, God, I swear I will try to be the like nicest, coolest, bestest. I will just try like so hard though. Like that was my promise, was just like, yo, I swear, like I'll just like commit the whole shit. If you can get me out of here in one piece, bro.
Right.
Please, like please, like please, like please, like yo. So like 2 days later, man, everybody was getting ready for this like death mission, man. It was like I just remember, I'll never forget the feeling on the cop was just so like dark, and everybody was just like, it was like some real like everybody's gonna die tonight type shit. It was like, yo, y'all gotta chill. It was like, but then there was like, it came down, there was like 5 people that weren't gonna go, and I'm like, please, like, yo, please, like, I gotta go. At this point, I've already been patrolling for another like 6 weeks after I got back into school. So like every day I'm just like, bro, please, like, anyways. They come in, they're like, hey, Adams, you're not going. I'm like, all right, cool. Then like 2 hours later, my commander comes in the office and he's like, yo, Adams, are your bags packed? And I was like, yes, sir. And he was like, all right, you're leaving.
Oh, wow.
Oh, what? I was like, what? So I went and got my shit. I had to like wait my friends up. I'm like, yo, I gotta go. Like, da da da. Boom. Go to the big base. I'm
Right.
like, I'm like, yes, like this is amazing. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's crazy. I'm like, I'm hitting my like class ring rep. Like I like ordered my ring. Like, you know, I'm like,
yes.
This has been so long. Like, it's crazy. Like, I'm just like, whoa, like kind of like a load, you know, load off. Go to my room, go to sleep. Wake up the next morning, I like go to log on the Wi-Fi, get on the Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi goes like black, like, you know, and then I'm like, dang, like what's going on? So then I'm like, oh shit, like we had a mission last night, like, oh, like never blackout, like no,
Right.
like snap. So I put my uniform on, I run to the battalion and talk to go see my battalion commander. I get there. Somber.
And real quick, for those not familiar, anytime there's a internet blackout, when you're deployed, that typically means people are injured or you know, or died, unfortunately. So anyways, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, so nipper blackout. So I run to the battalion. I get to the battalion, somber. You know, you just like get there, everybody's like, no, we got helicopters in the distance, smoke. I'm like, they come in, they're like, yo, Adams, you're in battle company, right? I'm like, yeah. They're like, yeah. Sit down. Oh man, there's like a couple of phrases in my life that like I hate to hear, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Anytime somebody tells you sit down, it's never good. Nothing comes after that. That's great, man. So we found out like 2 of my platoon mates got like stepped on IED, got blown up. One of them died that night. Another one died in the hospital a couple, like I guess like a week later. And it was crazy because I talked to my battalion commander. He like, you know, and this is a surreal moment too, right? Like I'm a private, right? So I know these people. You know what I'm saying? This is where I'm at. This is like where I stand, like, right? And, you know, my battalion commander, like, he's a great dude. He doesn't tell these people up. So he's like, yo, you know these dudes? Like, can you, like, tell me about them so I can, like, talk to their families? And it's just like, yo, that shit is crazy just, like, to understand the whole dichotomy, right? But right then and there, after that, I talked to him about it, and then he was like, yo, I got you a helicopter. And I left that day. And I'm telling you, bro, I'll never forget the video footage in my mind of, like, lifting off from this helicopter to leave from Zari district to go to CAF to like go back to America. And as soon as it lifted off, it was like that was the moment that I was like, well, I guess that's the thing. So I guess that's the thing. So like that was a real life-changing moment for me, where it really turned a corner for me, that I felt like part of my whole life is like committed to try to teach and help others, and just be a resource, and to try to free people's minds, and to try to help people do their thing, because like I made a promise, and that's real. And like I'm telling you, like the circumstances that we're in, I don't know, people spiritual, whatever, I don't care. I'm just telling you that since that day, you know, a lot of the things that I'm able to do, and a lot of the stuff that I have, you know, there's a certain level of discernment, or I feel like, you know, kind of almost a spiritual push for me about what are the things that are right to do, or right to say, or to,
Right.
and I'm always trying to tap into that on a regular basis. And that's one of the ways that I try to remain present, is to remain present, to remain open, to be, to understand that, hey, this thing that I'm trying to bring about, it has a larger thing. And I'll talk about nesting in a little bit, but
right.
yeah, you know, just about how I get all this stuff done is like, you know, it's all in together for a singular purpose. And so while it seems like a lot of different things, it's actually one thing that is being represented by many things, right? And that thing is trying to build opportunity, a stage, a platform, and the ability to help people at large, and doing some of the things that we were talking about earlier about with the kids, about freeing the minds and these other things. So that's kind of I'll take a break from that for a minute. So that's kind of like that whole story. And then I went back to West Point and boom, did a great job. And then went on my officer career, which we can talk about too.
Yeah. But the 9 days that you transitioned from that situation, that's one hell of a note to leave a deployment on.
Yeah,
to say the least. Nuts. Yeah, but that 9 day window that you described, from when you go, okay, I'm leaving Afghanistan, where you effectively, I mean, dodged a bullet, to say the least, from what it sounds like, to showing up to Buckner altogether and leading, being a cadre at Buckner. That must have been one hell of a decompression period or transition period for you. I mean, like, how do you look back on that?
Well, I was focused, man. Like, I was, again, like, I define my objectives, unrelenting focus, so my thing about it was, when I started this journey, when I went to West Point, my whole thing was like, I want to be a governor, which we can also talk about, right? That was my whole thing. I wanted to be governor of North Carolina. Actually, I found North Carolina when I went to North Carolina, when I went to brag. I said, oh, this is, I want to do here. Like, I was just like, I want to be a governor. I don't know what state, because I haven't studied the states enough to understand where is like the place that would be best for what I'm talking about. And then when I was away during this time in my purgatory, whatever, like, it's always important to me whenever I call this the bottom of the pit. I'll reference this a lot too. This obviously situation for me at there was a bottom of the pit type of moment, right? The first pit of my life, right? But when I climbed out of that pit, right? When I climbed out of that pit unscathed, I found a respect for the pit, and I stopped fearing the pit. That was a very mind-freeing situation, right? Like, I already lost everything. You have to think about, I was 21 years old. I'm from Alabama. I'm not from nothing, bro. This is my rocket ship up. And I was going to orbit, and I came on back down to Earth, kid. And now I gotta like get my like Star Trek badge back, right? To be able to go back to the rocket ship. But all I'm saying is my whole thing every single day through this experience was, I belong in space though, right? So I don't care about any of that. All I care about is, how are we getting to space, right? So my rocket came down to Earth, and I'm down here, and I got to get my space badge. Okay, well, like, I got to get back to space. So I use that to say that when I got back to space, my whole thing was like, listen, kiddos, I just spent 730 days of my life thinking about standing here in front of you through bullets, landmines, through these ridiculous drill sergeants, through all this, this stuff, so much stuff. I do not want to hear one word of negativity about the United States Military Academy, because I just went through their experience. I came to this place because I thought they were going to turn a boy into a man. And now for me, it was a 6-year journey. But you know what? When I left there, I was a grown man.
Mm-hmm.
So they made good on their promise. So
Mm-hmm.
what we do around here is, if you are looking to be developed, then the development is here for you. If you're looking to be a shitbag, that is a choice for yourself. And that road is available to you too. But you decide. You decide what you're going to be. And you know what you're going to be. And so my big thing with them was like, hey, I was a super strict platoon leader, but it was lit because I was trying to teach them some shit. I was like, listen, like, we're going to free your mind. So my big thing was I had like these strike force standards. I had 12 standards that I had for them. I think it's on Instagram, but it's a bunch of like, not like affirmations, but like stuff that's like, look, I'm going to take all the stuff that you think that's negative, and I'm going to pin it on the wall and be like, we're not doing that. Mm-hmm. Because this negativity is so predictable. Is it real?
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if before I even know y'all, if I can write down all the stuff you're going to complain about, then like, are you even being your, like, you know what I'm saying? Are you even here with us?
That reminds me of like, just when you can predict behaviors, right? Like predict those complaints. It's like, are you really, it kind of goes back to the agency thing. Are you really thinking, you know, or are you really thinking about what's going on?
Right. And 3 of them were no complaining. I had a rule in my platoon like this, bro. I said, look, if a cadre member or anybody in this platoon catches you complaining more than twice, I think it was, I'm gonna give you an automatic F. Mm-hmm. I mean it. And there's some kids I gave 2 Ds because they had 2. Mm-hmm. And I was like, y'all think I'm playing? I'm not playing with y'all. I'm trying to teach y'all. This is real. Stop that shit. It's poisonous. It's bad leadership. Why are you here complaining? What you complaining about? Right. Why would you complain about something you're gonna do anyway? Yeah. Why are you dreading something that you're gonna do anyway? Like, people gotta lose this whole thing. Like, bro, if you're gonna either dread it and don't do it, right, or just do it and shut up. Yeah, no, exactly. It's like, and not and to, you know, dovetail that perfectly. These moments tend to be the moments they typically complain about tend to be like short-lived moments. You know what I'm saying? Like, relatively speaking, it's like it's like even like you could pick like any mundane, you know, relatively mundane task like the IOCT, right? Like, or an APFT, right? Just do it. Just do the damn thing. You know what I'm saying? Just get it done with. So, but anyways, so like, how did you make that transition from because I know there's a couple different things you did after West Point. You went to law school, or not after West Point, after the Army. So what inspired you to go to law school? Is that, you know, that sounds like, if I had to guess, it's in line with your plans, aspirations to want to be a governor. Yeah, like loosely, like, yeah, right. I did like economics and systems engineering at West Point. Then I was like a Army Ranger, and we did like the airborne stuff, and then all that stuff, right? So like, I've been writing the story. And that's another thing. Like, I tell people, okay, so like, if you think about even the governor thing, it's like, hey, again, a clear objective, unrelenting focus. So the background of the whole thing, even as I'm like crawling my way out of like my mistakes as a 21-year-old, I'm thinking about how we're gonna like patch this all together for that though. Right. For 30 years from now, this is how I'm gonna like deal with talking about this. Right. You know what I mean? So for me, it was like, all right, why I go to law school? So, but what happened was, I applied for law school when I was getting out of the Army. I was in Italy, and then I worked at West Point my last 2 years in the admissions department, doing like admissions with the kids. Obviously, I told you about the kids. So they are our future, but whatever. But so through that, when I was working at West Point, I lived in New York City, and I used to travel around for my job. So I started Airbnb-ing the apartment, and then it was making a good amount of money. And I was like, oh, you know, this is actually like a good amount of money. Like, I bet you if I like got some more places, like, this would even be better, right? Like, I was like, okay. So I started looking at that, convinced one of my friends, an old grad, shout out Raf. And then dude, I was coming to West Point to work the admissions job. I was like, man, I make a lot of money doing this. Like, I can help you, blah, blah, blah. And then we like got an open apartment and got a second one. So that was cool. It was a really good experience. And I think I want to talk about the mental health part of the transition situation for a second, though, because I think it's really important about mindset. So my thing is, as I was getting out, it was starting to pain me. I started to become aware that I had traded my agency to the Army. Like I wasn't aware when I was younger. Like I just wasn't thinking about it like that. Right? Like it's like mom and dad. It's just like you're there, they pay you, like whatever, you job, like you are an Army officer, right? It's existential.
Right.
It's your I'm like like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm captain, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what I am. But when I got to West Point and I started to be more free and be able to do my thing and really the things that I cared about and like kind of with their agenda, but really with my agenda, which I think was always my career, but whatever. I was like, wait a minute. These people have like a lot of control. And I think like no one should have that much control. Like it was like a true awakening. I was like, what?
Yeah.
You can do what? Like, what? How can they like, you can like ruin my life because you said so?
Right.
Nah. I was like, nah, I gotta get out of here. So it became like my last year in the Army. I was like, oh, like I worked remote because like before remote was a thing, because you know, got a finesse. Again, that was one of my objectives that year, was like to make it into a situation where my bosses would be cool with me like being in remote. So I was just a workhorse, right? Like I broke a bunch of records and stuff and was like, hey, like I broke all these records and like made you all look really good because I was in the region with my kids. And I know that my region next year is New York City. And that's an hour away from here. But the thing about it is my region is an hour away from here. And that's where the kids are. And I got the records because I was with the kids. So I'm going to be in New York City. I'll let you know when I'm coming to West Point. I'll come here whenever I have like staff duty or whatever is the thing. And then like, they're like, yeah, that's lit. But that's just another case of just like getting your objective.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna keep coming back to like defining your objective and understand how it's gonna fit in the thing. So anyways, started doing the Airbnb stuff. When I got out, I was feeling this way. So I didn't want to go to another job. Right?
Yeah.
Because my whole thing was like, it was eating at me that I felt that people were looking at me as if like, because I did a really good job in the Army, that like that was the only thing that I could ever be good at. And that I was like, what are you guys talking about?
Right.
That's ridiculous. Like, you know what I mean? And so like I don't know, like I don't want to say I'm prideful. I'm just like really like, I was like really aggressive and obsessive. I think like just about these type of things. Like, no, I just like want what I want and like I'm gonna do the work to do it. And so anyways, I told my friends like, and this is it, I want to, this is for all the transitioning investors that are listening, like, do not do this shit. Look, my friends, I love them to death. They were like, oh, but bro, like, how are you gonna get a job? How are you gonna pay your bills?
Right.
Bro, listen, like, I'm a grown professional, like smart person, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I want to say to everybody out there, like, look, everyone is an entrepreneur already, okay? Because business is about creating something of value and trading it for money, right? At the most basic level, that's it. That's the transaction that's going on, okay? If you work a job, that means you create value for them that they trade money to you for.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And then you take that money and you run the business of your life. You pay rent, you pay electricity, you pay for food, you pay for all the things. So you have your own P&L, you have your own balance sheet. You are a business. So stop all this like praising of the entrepreneurs, all this like pedestal and shit. You're already doing it. You're just being like lazy about it.
Yeah.
Right? You're siphoning value. You're like, and that's the difference between creating value and siphoning value, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's just what it is.
Yes,
so my
exactly.
thing with it is like, stop trying to make everybody so special. The secret of the thing is like this. I knew that in New York City, I started to notice when I would ask people who stayed with me in my place, why do you like Airbnb? They're like, oh, because it's more homey, blah, 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 blah. The hotels are stuffy, they're expensive. So I'm like, oh, there's a shift to preference in apartment style accommodations. Right? I try to do everything really simple, bro. Simple thing. I was like, oh, there's a need for more apartment style accommodations. I'm going to build a business. And I never really did like the way I really wanted to do it. The original like idea of the business was to go to consultants and other people who don't use their homes, right? Like there's lots of people who live in New York City who are consultants. They're gone 16 days out of the month. So to go to that clientele and say, hey, I can bet you I can use those 16 months that you're not here and we can make like mad bread, like lots of money, like your rent back basically. Don't you want to live for free since you're not there anyway?
Right.
a great seller. Everybody's like, yeah, of course, right? So it's like, okay, we're gonna set you up, blah blah, run this shit, and I'll make this much, blah 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 blah. But that ended up being a little bit harder to do in the way that I was trying to do it. We needed more sophistication, and I wasn't that sophisticated of a business person at that point. This is really my first small business. I think we did like 875K in revenue or so in 2019. After a while, when we had all the apartments, we had like had like a couple 3-bedroom, 2 bathrooms, a 2 bedrooms, like a 1-bedroom studio, because I wanted to see how everything was like situated.
Yep.
So then all over like uptown. Had different systems in place. I had a lady named Aisa who was like my like right hand, like, you know, she's a 1099 contractor. She's like the cleaning lady / concierge. So I even ran this business with all 8 apartments when I was a first semester 1L. That's why I don't want to hear anything from anybody about anything. Like, yo, gotta chill. And it's not about being, again, it's not about me being special. I just did the work though. Come on, y'all. Like, don't make it like that. Don't make it a superpower that I decided to put a system in place so that I can generate some revenue. Like, that's not fair. I feel like that's downplaying everybody's yourselves. That means you're still lost.
It's as easy as that execution. Yeah.
Wake up. It's just doing the thing. Everything takes what it takes. So beings ended up being like, okay, I have this 1 apartment that I convinced Raph to get an apartment. So now we got 2 apartments. So I took the money from those apartments and then I opened up 2 more apartments.
Right.
Okay. Then it was like, they churn. Then we learn and we're learning. Like, I mean, we're learning, bro. Okay, this is some real hustler stuff right here. Let me tell you something. In the second apartment, so one of the ways that we found was if you get a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, you can rent them out by the room and it's more lucrative than maybe the whole group. Because who needs an apartment this big? Some groups, but like occupancy is hard. But if you're doing it by the room, then it's flipped, right? You can do $100 a room. So now it's $300 plus the cleaning fees for each piece. It's lucrative. So we had 2 3-bedroom, 2 bathrooms. Well, at one of them, it had this giant walk-in closet. So me and Raph were like, you know what, bro? We're going to put a twin bed in the walk-in closet. That way we can rent out all the rooms that we have, but we can still have somewhere to like crash if we need to, right?
Oh, wow.
So like I'm sleeping in a closet, no AC.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? New York, hot summer.
Yeah.
So the thing about it though is because an unrelenting focus on the objective, like that's like the whole thing is like, bro, I don't care about that.
Right.
We're trying to run these numbers up. And in order to run the numbers up, it is necessary for me to sleep in the hot closet or with or somewhere else in order to rent out this room.
Exactly.
And like, I'm not worried about my comfort because that's not the objective. That's not the objective. That's not the objective, you know?
Yeah.
That's just not the objective. And if that's your objective, that's cool. Then stop asking me about money and shit. That's what I feel like with people. Like, yo,
like what do you like what are you willing to put up with essentially is what it is. You know, like what picking your sacrifice is probably another way to put it.
I don't know, man. I have this argument all the time. I'm not one of these guys that believes in the like suffering sometimes, the sacrifice sometimes. This is what I posit to everybody. It is true that you have to suffer sometimes, but I'd like to like think about and say that differently.
Right.
What I like to say is that you just have to be resolved all the time. So no matter what is happening, you're gonna do it. Right.
Exactly.
So you can look at it like sometimes you gotta suffer, but I'm just like, hey, all the time, I just gotta like lock in, G. So like if it's hard to lock in today, that is just today's problem. And we are going to try our damnedest to be as locked in as possible.
Right.
Because that's what I got to do today. And so I feel good about that. You know, it was not the best performance day.
Yeah.
But alas, we got our things done and that's great. And so we can live to breathe another day and be happy about your little morsel of happiness and go on with our life. So anyways, the being situation was great. It was a great lesson for me, I think, to a lot of things. First of all, I told you I was like tired of the Army, so I took my last $10,000 and I said, I loaded myself back to the bottom of the pit. I told you I went before the Army mentorship, so it was a familiar place for me. I came out, so I'm not scared of that down there. So I said, you know what? I like it down there. I like it down there. It gives me peace. It reminds me that like all this is nothing, right? So you can give up everything because like Like, this is some real shit. Okay. And I encourage this. And it's like hard to try to communicate what this means, but it's like, if you can learn to give it up, you'll always have everything. Because you'll understand that like it is nothing to it's nothing either way. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain that. It's like I knew that I could go back to having this $10,000, which is probably enough to last me like 2 months, let's say, right? With no viable income. And I hadn't even done my VA stuff or anything. And that was another thing. I was like, no, I'm not even gonna do that either. Because like I know that I have it, it accrues or whatever, so like it's fine. But I really want to have the experience of like, we have to make this money though.
Mm-hmm.
So like I artificially was like, I will go back to broke.
Right.
To like be a broke entrepreneur and be like, I gotta get this money.
Right.
And make the decisions where it's like, man, I gotta either decide I had to go borrow $5,000 from my friend. I could use this to like subsist for like 2 more months. But like really, I could probably flip this $5K into another apartment.
Right. Right.
Yo, I think I'm gonna go ahead and get another apartment. Like I can get a 1-bedroom with this. I'm like, I'm gonna be eating noodles. Like I think my girlfriend at the time, I was maybe staying with her or whatever. I'm like, yo, whatever it takes. Like, okay, like, yo, boom, like get another apartment. We're in the dry season. But by March, I had like 5 and it was like, boom.
Oh, wow.
On to the high season, April, June, like they're making 20K. Like we're like, this is amazing. Right. And it's sweet all year. But then regulatory issues. Sorry, long one. But
yeah,
what happened was in the middle of that summer, everything is lovely. I had already got into law school, I think, because again, I was going to law school for like the overall, just I feel like it was going to be a good practice for my mind. But then I get hit with Airbnb hit me up. No, this is actually in the fall of 2018. They hit me up. They're like, hey, the hotel lobby is like launching all these like attacks or whatever about Airbnb, and like you're like a super host, like do you want to like help us join the fight? So I'm like, what? So then I go to the rally or whatever, and I'm like, yo, like what's going on? And they're like telling me, I'm like, yo, like what? And I'm over here, I'm plotting, bro. I got a whole empire on my mind. Like I'm about to get 25 of these, right? So I'm like in the middle of building to the 8, and I'm like, what? They're gonna like shut this down? I'm like, oh man. So I get deep in the fight, involved with Airbnb corporate, I'm at city council, blah, blah, blah. So then I'm just like, man, like how is this even rolling? Da, da, da. So then I'd already gotten into law school, but that gave color to more of like the understanding of how this was going to help me do what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And some of the stuff that I want to do now is like loosely here, but it's like I have much more like defined plans now. But in general, I was like, okay, like I feel like I just got torpedoed by this situation. I wish that I would have not only thought about it, but just had the wherewithal to really understand like the implications of these various things and like how this all works. So I was like, all right, cool, perfect. Regulatory stuff. I was like, okay, this summer 2019, again, laser focus, y'all. I went to San Francisco to visit a friend. We're thinking about doing an Airbnb thing out there, but one of the apartments was across from Airbnb headquarters. I walked in there. I walked in the lobby. I looked in the thing. I looked at everyone's trim and shit. I looked at my friend and I said, next year, I'm going to work here as a legal intern. It's lit. And then I was like, we can go now. And we walked out. Proud to say, I definitely worked at Airbnb as a legal intern. 100% the next summer we got laid off, but then we got brought back for the school year. So regulatory work was what I was kind of focused on at first, right?
Right.
So short-term rentals, and then that bled over into alcohol and cannabis. The brewery situation came about because years ago, when we were in 2008, between my plebe year and my yuck year, my freshman and sophomore year, I met a couple guys. We went to China, and like the whole time we were like drinking beer and like critiquing all this Chinese beer. My good friend Sam, and we just really hit it off, became friends. We were just like, yeah, when we grow up, we're gonna have our own shit. Like we're gonna we're just gonna again, like it's just. I think the whole story of my life is like, bro, if I say that I'm gonna like do something, I'm like swearing by it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, mm-hmm. I promise. Like, I'm telling you, you'll look up and be like, Devin did say that he was gonna do that. So that's how it was with the brewery. It was just like, yo, we said we're gonna do it when we were younger. Got some other friends that were in the brewery space, and so I got involved, and like 2015, I called my friend. Hey, I was like, hey, I'm investor number one. We were still in the Army. I was in Vicenza. He had just left. He was in the Ranger Regiment. And I was like, bro, I'm telling you that whatever this becomes, it was a whiskey at first. Whatever this becomes, I'm investor number one. So don't leave me. And that's how that went. And that was years ago. And then he met his wife in 2017. And I met her and told her the same thing.
Interesting.
And then they went around the world and like went to study all the beer. And then I went on like some of the spots on the trip too, met them out there, which again, like I remember first time I told her, I was like, I'm gonna meet you guys somewhere in Europe. They're like, where? I don't know. I'll call you one day. And literally one day I called them while they were on the European leg of the trip. I was in Europe. I was in London. I was like, where are you guys at? They're like, oh, I was in Hamburg, Germany. I was like, all right, I'm gonna come there tomorrow. And this girl that I knew that stayed with me on Airbnb. That's the other thing about Airbnb. Let me take an aside for this. An amazing, amazing opportunity to meet people from all over the world. And I have friends from everywhere now. Like, I mean, I have friends from, you know what I mean? Like literally. So I went to Hamburg to see Celine. And I'm like, oh, well, like my friends are in Hamburg too. Like 2 for 1. There we go. And pulled up on them the next day, you know, because, and so, yeah, so that's how my involvement got with the brewery. But, you know, Sam and Sarah, the lion's share, they're amazing. They're really amazing to be able to watch and really understand, and obviously have an inside seat, you know, table and equity and all the rest of it. But, you know, really they were the driving force for the vision. And they really helped me to think about the process of, hey, this is the vision that we have, or the feeling that we're trying to communicate, and work with the brand people and work with the architects and work with other people to bring that idea and that feeling to life through the menu and whatnot. So that was like a really, so if you think about the business experience and like the Airbnb business, like right. Just like taught me that I could trust myself to generate revenue, number one. And number two, that like helped me like with dealing with these levels of money.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, like, you know, cash flow and paying all these bills, of having a rent roll of like 40 G's, like, you know what I mean? Like so it was a good practice in like maneuvering and dealing with all this different money.
Of course. Right.
And systems. But I don't think that I was very good in that business about like the super legal, like business, like I have a corporation now, right? That was a small business, right? An LLC, you know, and I really make that distinction, not just by the money, but by the mindset of what's going on. Like I'm trying to go yard with what we're doing right now. You know what I mean? Yes. That I was really trying to exercise and really just trust myself to like sustain myself, you know, like right. That's really was the practice. I always knew I'd get a job. I think eventually I went to get a job at Accenture, like in like May, you know, and I ended up quitting like August to go to school, but it was like lit because like I got to fly around all summer on the consulting situation. For sure. And just finding ways to like do the stuff that you want to do. Like, so anyways, that's like the why I went to law school. And I can talk in depth about the law school situation being such a value add. Like I hate most people who talk about law school, because if you're doing the law school because that's like what you were prescribed and that's what you're supposed to do, and like you're not thinking about it, and you're just like, I guess I'm gonna go be a lawyer because it pays money, and you're like not intellectually curious, yeah, it's a drag. All that sounds miserable. Doesn't that just sound miserable? Yeah, right. That's not law school. That's many people who are in law school because of whatever their situation is. But I try to explain to young entrepreneurs that this is the play with the law school situation. Number one, all of the businesses I do are about leveraging licenses. Okay, because licenses in America are, by virtue of the regime, are a high barrier to entry. An extremely high barrier to entry. And you know how lazy people all around you are. Think about how high a barrier to entry is if there's a barrier. Right. They won't do stuff that's no barrier. So if there's a high barrier to entry, it's not likely that you're going to have many competitors. Okay. For sure. Since that's true, right? If you're willing to do the thing that's going to take you over that high barrier to entry, most often it's the land of milk and honey on the other side, because not many people scale the wall. So the first thing to say about the legal situation is just that. Business school does not provide you with the license by which other people have not gone out and got that you can leverage for revenue. Right. That's the number one pound for pound situation. What do you mean? I go past the bar for the rest of my life. Like if you want to start a LLC or anything, I can charge you $500 an hour to help you. Yeah, right. Exactly. And I'm only allowed to do it. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's like only so many. So I'm in a class of people, like, you know, so that by virtue is a value add.
Right.
Right. At every level that you want to do it. Okay. So that's number one, the ability to leverage the legal license. Now, people talk about the firm, blah, blah. I have a job at Ropes and Gray in New York City. I am going to go lawyer, even though I have a corporation. We're going to be running full tilt. But because I have to go and do the building blocks of the legal profession in order to be competent and proficient. Mm-hmm. So it's not about going to be in the political system. It's not about any of that. It's about they have a set of skills that I am humble enough to understand that I do not have, and I must go get in order to fully leverage the value that I want from all this work that I've done.
Of course.
Okay.
Right.
So because I'm doing that, I understand that I have to set up my business in a way where I did all the Devin T heavy lifting thinking first. All the legal stuff is done, right? Because obviously, right? All the marketing stuff is done, right? All this stuff. So now we're moving into an operations and execution phase. I just hired a COO. Okay, brother, this is the deal. We have 8 work streams. It works like this. Every time I'm going to start in China. The bottle will start in China. We got to deal with that. They get all the packaging. Then it goes to Mexico. Then we go to Palenque. It gets filled up there. Then we move it from there. We got to ship it to the borders. One's going to Laredo. One's going to San Diego. Then they're going to go to these 4 warehouses. From the warehouses, the salespeople are going to go out to these bars, right? And tell them this stuff. This is how we're going to set up the system. And then we're going to do these events to do the marketing. And we're going to rinse and repeat. This is something that does not take new innovative thought every day. This is something that certainly I can handle with a staff meeting either 3 times a week or every morning from 7 to 9. Mm-hmm. Right? Now I got to give up some, I'm not making money off the business though, because I got to pay other people, but I make $210,000 with these people. Mm-hmm. So like, it's chill.
Right.
Right. I've like bought a chill life for myself.
Right.
It's less stress because like, who's tripping? I'm not tripping.
Yeah.
So I'll pay somebody else $200,000 to run the business because I can do that, but I can't do the legal thing without the practice. Mm-hmm. Right. So that took me time to break that down, to understand, like, to stop being weird about it and be humble about the fact that like the firm is a beneficial situation, that there is something that they can provide for me, that it's not about selling out and it's not about being in the system. Like all that shit is like, that's not real. The real of it is I want the skill. They have the ability to teach me the skill set. So I should go learn that.
Right. Of course.
If I want to be effective.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
And that's the objective. So that's like my law school spiel.
Right.
And then it also put me in positions to like work at Airbnb. That's just like the cloudest shit. So I ran an Airbnb business and I got ran out because of regulations. So then I went and worked at the legal department at Airbnb. It's lit. So when it's time for me to open like my my apartment style accommodations hotel in New York City, that will be like a great little, you know, I still know everybody over there, blah, blah, blah. Like I just talked to Brian Chesky the other day. He's like, you know, and that's something that I can use. Right. And so that's the whole thing. And I think one of the things about doing a bunch of stuff is like, I call it the double dip now. Mm-hmm. Everything I do gets double, right? So you're saying like the license, we can get a job, but then we can also learn the stuff that we need to run the corporation. We DJ, so I get paid to play the music, but then also I know the bar manager, so the bar manager also buys my liquor, right? So like, and we can have the liquor at the cocktail special while I DJ. So like I'm doing 2 things, right? I'm getting money 2 ways same night. Like y'all gotta think harder about this shit. Like, I don't know, for me, I think that's so simple. Like obviously, where are the synergies in your life?
Yep. I can relate. Because with Crypto Cartel, you know, that's gonna be the ad that comes on before this. As we're recording this, people watching this have probably already seen it, but there's going to be an ad for Crypto Cartel, the game that I made, just right before this video plays on YouTube. And then there's also other things that are stemming from Crypto Cartel, the game. So there's like the graphic novel series I'm creating from that. It's all connected. It's all connected.
Absolutely. Yep. And I think sometimes we ask ourselves another thing I talk to people about is like, stop asking yourself rhetorical questions.
Yes.
It's a bad mental practice that is torturing you and you don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to ask yourself a question, answer the question. Answer the question. You know what I'm saying? Like, force yourself to talk back to yourself, answer the question. When I'm doing something, I'm like, man, why am I doing this? I'd be like, well, bro, you're doing it because like you wanted this thing and then you wanted that thing. And like, it's okay to assess in real time whether that's still what you want, but at least have the actual conversation and stop like torturing yourself with like dreading stuff that you're going to do.
Right. Yeah. That just goes into, yeah. It just reminds me of one of my favorite quotes that I've learned recently. And that's Socrates. He says, the unexamined life is not worth living. Right. And I think that just plays perfectly with what you're saying. So, I want to take a moment to pivot here. This has all been really good, by the way. And unfortunately, we're going to be running out of time here soon because there's more I want to poke your brain about. We'll probably have to do another one of these, but I want to switch to the fun segment of this podcast, which is, so I put together here for you. Let me go ahead and just share the screen here. Where the hell is it? Where did it go? There it is. Okay. Bear with me just a moment. Okay. So I have prepared for you a tier list. I'm not sure if you've ever done these before, but all right. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
So I have created a tier list specific for you, Devin, of every single, well, not every single, I went with 15 collaborations with Kanye West. And so what we're gonna do here for the next couple minutes is you're gonna rank them from superior all the way down to F, whether or not you think this is a good collaboration or a bad one. So first one out the gate, Kanye and Jamie Foxx. What is your opinion of that collaboration? Where does that rank?
I mean, so we got Slow Jams and we got Gold Digger, right?
Yep.
Issue for me is that even though Gold Digger is a classic, it might be like, I mean, I guess they just played it out. I guess I'm just always upset that is like the one Kanye song that is like the most widely known. It's like offensive. It's like, this is what y'all all know. Like, no wonder you don't think that Kanye is the greatest, because like this is not the greatest.
Right.
So I feel like I gotta go like, I'm gonna go like 12.
Okay, but which letter? It's
I got you.
Yeah.
D.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. So D out the gate. Okay. All right. Next one. All right. Now we got Kanye.
Oh, I understand. Oh well, no. Let me get that back.
You want to?
I'll give it a C. I'll give it a C.
Got it. Okay. Okay. You're good. Okay. Kanye and T-Pain. How does that rank?
Oh, we got Good Life. That's a classic. I know T-Pain helped on, some 808s. I feel like I'm giving that a B.
A B? Okay. Kanye and T-Pain. Giving them a B. All right. Next one, we got Kanye and Jay-Z.
That's what's the best? A S?
Yeah, superior, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Okay.
Kanye, obviously. Although Kanye killed Jay-Z on the album, though. So.
Okay.
Just lit.
All right, next one. Kanye and Daft Punk.
That gets that's an A for me. We got On Site, we got Stronger, that's some good stuff.
What I'm personally a really big Daft Punk fan.
Me too.
And I think that what I love about Daft Punk, the one thing that I think that they both Kanye has in common with Daft Punk is that you can't put them in a box,
Oh, they're amazing.
Yeah, you can't just simply describe them in one way. It's like, no, they do a lot of things,
Yeah, I think the cool thing about Daft Punk too is that it's just so cool that the way that they've decided to do it was like, okay, the concept is that we're robots, but like, how would the robots translate these genres? Like, right?
Yes.
Like, that's the nuance I feel like people don't get. It's like, no, dude, they like, each album is like, okay, but if we made like a rock album, or if we made like a house album, or if we made like the funk album, like what does it sound like? Funk Robots. That's lit.
Yeah, and I think one more thing, not to go too deep on Daft Punk, what I love about them is, and this is another thing that they have in common with Kanye, is they are who they are, and it goes into like the helmets, right? You can't identify them in public. You know what I'm saying? You can't like corrupt them, so to speak. And so because of that, they're going to be who they are regardless of criticism or anything like that. So which I think that's one thing I just really appreciate about them. Okay. Next one. Kanye and Lupe fiasco.
I mean, this is like an A collab situation too, bro. I mean, this is like Touch the Sky. You know, we got some Child Rebel Soldier stuff that's fresh. You know, yeah, I'm gonna go with the A. That's lit. That's lit.
Okay. Kanye and Lupe are RNA. Okay, cool. All right, next one. We got Kanye and Kim.
Yo, don't do that, yo. Boo. We don't fuck with her. Like, boo.
Yeah. F.
Yeah, they get like Kanye and Kim get an F. So
Okay.
Kim gets an F. Kanye gets a superior. Boo. Kim, we don't want to hear that. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The machine, man. We don't want to hear that. We made you.
Yeah.
I unfollowed Kim from Instagram. I was only ever following her because Kanye made her beautiful. She was not as beautiful before. We all know that. I'm just saying. Or she wasn't as well put together, let's say. In the post Kanye years from like 2012 to like 22, like Kim has been on a run, and everybody should recognize that.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting about that is, in retrospect, he's probably the most profile. He's the biggest profile in terms of all the relationships she's ever had.
Yeah, she was married to Kanye. She's got 4 kids with him.
Yeah. I mean, he's
4 kids. My thing with them is like, you got 4 kids. Like, why are you being dramatic with 4 kids? Just like work it out.
I don't understand how you go from Kanye to Pete Davidson personally. I really don't. That to me makes no sense.
I don't think it's real, bro. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It makes sense to me in that like the whole thing over there is a machine. Like, did you see her Ellen interview?
No.
She was like, yeah, he got like 3 tattoos of me and a brand. Like, why is this casual? That's weird.
That is weird.
Y'all talking about Kanye's weird? Like, you're bragging on daytime television that this dude got a brand of your name? Is that the message that we're sending to the people?
Yeah. It's
Get the hot girl's names branded on you?
Yeah. She's suspect for sure. That's at least.
That's just, I thought that was really weird. I was like, please, I hope no one's asking me to get a tattoo of him.
All right, next one. Kanye and Antonio Brown.
I think it's interesting how Kanye does the like, oh, you're canceled, come hang out with me. So
yeah.
I give it a D.
What was that?
A D.
A D. Okay, got it. Yeah, Antonio Brown's eccentric, but I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like he creates too many problems for himself. Kanye and Estelle. Where does this sit?
American Boy is an all-time classic, so I give that a B. That's still on a very T-Painish level.
Okay. Gonna move her B. All right. Next one. Kanye, Carrie Hilson, and Neo.
There's some what we had Knock You Down. There's some good ones. Hold on a second. I don't know though. I feel like that's a D for me though.
A D. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Next one. Kanye and Rihanna.
That's superior. That's what we like.
Superior. Yeah. When I was deployed to Iraq, it's kind of funny because I was talking about Daft Punk. Like I got hooked more to Daft Punk and Kanye when I was deployed to Iraq, and all the lights came out just before I was leaving for R&R. That was one hell of a song to to have released just before enjoying some R&R. So, next one, Kanye and Mr. Hudson.
They got some classics. There's some classics. I'm gonna give that like I'll give that a B level as well. That's a B level. There's some good stuff there. I feel bad that I put Jamie down there, but at the same time,
yeah,
bro, I can't do it. Take my money. Can't do it.
Yeah. All right, next one, Kanye, Talib Kweli, and Common.
I mean, that's up there too. That's superior. That's bars.
Yeah.
Although you got most definitely here because that's bars.
Yeah. All right. Next one, getting interesting here. Kanye and Paul McCartney.
4 or 5 seconds and only one are, very poetic, But I remember during that time period being like, but yo, Kanye, can we get some bars though? Or no? No bars. We get no bars. So generally speaking, Paul McCartney, I was like, bro, get this guy out of here so we can get the bars back. So I'm giving it a D.
A D. Oof. What's really funny, yeah. I'm not sure if you remember this with the collaboration with Paul McCartney and Kanye, but like some people were on Twitter were saying like, "Oh, who's this Paul McCartney guy? He's gonna he's gonna help him out big time." It's just sort of like Paul McCartney's been around for a long time.
That's true though.
Yeah.
He's still getting streaming numbers off 4 or 5 seconds though.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, next one, Kanye and Pusha T.
That's goated. That's goated. You know what I mean? That's goated. Daytona is a goat level rap. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. Superior?
So yeah, Superior, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What I love about Kanye and Pusha T especially, I'm not sure, have you watched Westworld by chance on HBO?
Westworld?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Like I love the fact that they did a cover for Runaway. I love the way they did it specifically for Westworld. It was just so well done, and yeah, it just really loved that.
Crazy.
Yeah, I wasn't too crazy about the third season. First 2 seasons were good.
See, I was not crazy about the second season because I felt like the way that they did the whole thing, I was like, I get it, but like, y'all did a little too much at the end here.
Yeah.
And that's why the third season is so also weird because they like mess up the way they closed the second season. It was like, well, what do you mean? Like you let everybody go?
Yeah.
Like, we're still here. And she like left. So like, okay, so everybody else is gone. But like she's still here and she's gonna go to the real people.
Yeah. The problem I have with the second season or the third season is, and I guess this kind of plays into the ending of the second season. But basically it's just you lose the premise of the show, which the name of the show is called Westworld for a reason, right? It's a specific location where people go to, and that's kind of what you want to be. Generally speaking, if the show's called Westworld, you should probably keep it as close to Westworld as possible, as often as possible. So
yeah, I also thought it was weird how they did like the random like samurai world that one time.
That's part of it. So have you ever seen the original?
No.
You should see the original. It's Michael Crichton, the guy who wrote Jurassic Park. He directed it. He wrote the books for Jurassic Park for Congo, all those sci-fi films. He directed it. It's really interesting because it shows the other worlds as well, and that's what I was hoping for too. Because I guess there's like I want to say there were 7 worlds on Westworld on the TV show. We only saw 3 of them, right? Barely saw 3 of them, but anyways, yeah, the good show though. Okay, last one, Kanye and 2.
That's some of the all-time worst acting of all time, and I love my guy. I support him in most of his endeavors, but he's got about 5 movie scenes, and all of them are not great. So
yeah,
that's the one thing I think my guy struggles with. But it's good though, because he's always being himself. So it's hard to act. I get it.
Yeah.
So for that, I give him an A.
An A. Oh, okay. I thought you were going the other way. Cool.
No, I'm giving him an A for effort.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. So here's where we stack up at the top. We got Kanye and Jay-Z, Rihanna, Talib Kweli, Common, and then Pusha T, and then close second over here with Daft Punk, Lupe Fiasco, and then Anchorman too. So cool. Well, Devin, this was a really good conversation. I feel like we covered a lot in a very short period of time, and I think I would love to just have round 2 at some point.
Yeah, I'm here, man.
Yeah, man, this is fun. This is really engaging. And I love your story. I really do. I think there's a lot that a lot of people can learn from it, which I think is super cool. Yeah, man, it's been great knowing you. So I really appreciate you stopping by my program, and let's reconnect again soon, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. You might hit me up about whatever.
Oh, and before we go, how can people follow you? How can people find you?
Oh yeah, Devin T Adams on Instagram, DEVIN T Adams, and then that's got like all of my mini ventures at the top. So click through and see what you want to care about. Follow me in Mescal. Shipping to 38 states soon, starting May 1st.
Do you have a
Pre-orders.
Do you have a website?
Yeah, go to warbevco.com.
Warbevco.com. Okay.
Yeah, warbevco.com, and you can put your name in, and we'll email you when it's time to order some drinks.
That sounds amazing, dude. Super exciting. You got a lot of energy, dude, and I really love it. That's one of the things I've really appreciate about you with all the endeavors. I think I see that with myself too. Like, you and I have that in common where we're trying to push for a lot of things, which I think is super cool. And yeah, man, again, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
No problem, bro. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, see ya.